The holographic display flickered with a vibrant red lattice, highlighting fractures across a human skeletal structure. Dr. Zeravin's four eyes widened simultaneously as the quantum diagnostic completed its scan. The Centaurian physician's tentacle-like digits trembled slightly as they tapped across the display, magnifying sections of the skeleton where breaks clustered most densely. "This can't be right," Dr. Zeravin muttered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "System, run diagnostic verification protocol. Recalibrate and rescan." Across the examination room of the Astrovitae medical station, Major Sarah Shard Cruz sat comfortably on the edge of the medbay cot, sipping from a steaming mug of Cafetech, the Galactic Union's attempt at replicating Earth coffee. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical braid, revealing a face marked with minor contusions and a particularly nasty gash above her left eyebrow that had been hastily sealed with emergency nanogel. Her flight suit, bearing the insignia of Earth's Frontier Scout Corps, was torn in multiple places and stained with hydraulic fluid and what appeared to be her own dried blood. "Something wrong with your equipment, Doc?" Sarah asked casually, taking another sip of the Cafetech. She grimaced slightly at the taste, too metallic as always, but the caffeine analog was doing its job. The medical station hummed with activity. Through the transparent aluminum windows, the vast emptiness of space stretched out, punctuated by the swirling blue-green gases of the Mars Nebula. The Astrovitae station orbited at the edge of Alpha Centauri, serving as the primary medical facility for this sector of the Galactic Union. "The equipment is functioning perfectly," Dr. Zeravin replied, with the particular tone of professional irritation that seemed universal across species. "What is not functioning correctly is your skeletal system. Major Cruz, according to these scans, you have 42 distinct bone fractures throughout your body. 42. That includes 8 broken ribs, fractures in both femurs, multiple breaks in your left ulna and radius, 3 cracked vertebrae, and a hairline fracture in your skull." Dr. Furlick, the station's Arcturian senior medical officer, lumbered over on his 6 stocky limbs. The bear-like alien's fur bristled as he examined the scan results. "Impossible," he growled, his universal translator giving his voice a gruff quality. "No ambulatory patient presents with this level of trauma. The pain alone would be incapacitating." Sarah shrugged, then winced almost imperceptibly as the motion disturbed her supposedly broken ribs. "I've had worse. This is just a tough stretch of the mission." The medical staff exchanged bewildered glances. Dr. Zeravin's skin flushed a deep purple, a sign of extreme agitation in Centaurians. "Major Cruz," the doctor enunciated carefully, "you should be in excruciating pain. You should be unconscious. By all medical standards across 17 sentient species cataloged in Union databases, you should be dead." Sarah took another sip of her Cafetech, her expression remaining neutral, save for a slight twitch at the corner of her mouth. "Well, I'm not. So either your equipment is malfunctioning, or humans are tougher than your database suggests." Dr. Furlick snorted, a sound somewhere between derision and curiosity. "What happened to you, Major? Your retrieval beacon was activated approximately 14 standard hours ago. The report mentioned asteroid field damage." Sarah's eyes momentarily darkened, the only indication that she was accessing unpleasant memories. "My scout ship, the Aurora's Edge, was charting a new route through the Scarlet Expanse. I misjudged the density of a particular section of the asteroid belt, took a direct hit to the main propulsion system." She set down her Cafetech mug on a nearby medical tray, the liquid inside rippling slightly as her hand trembled for just a moment before steadying. "The impact breached the hull in 3 sections. I sealed 2 manually, but the engine compartment was completely compromised. Had to conduct emergency repairs in vacuum conditions with minimal suit protection." She spoke clinically, as if reading from a mission report rather than recounting a near-death experience. When the secondary containment field failed, I was caught in the explosive decompression. After stabilizing the ship enough for emergency protocols, I ejected in the survival pod and drifted for approximately 9 hours before your retrieval team picked up my beacon. Dr. Zeraven's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. You're describing an event that would have killed most humanoids instantly. Lucky, I guess, Sarah replied with a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. Dr. Furlick's clawed hand reached for a neural scanner. With your permission, Major, I'd like to conduct a more thorough evaluation of your nervous system. Human pain response clearly warrants further study. Before Sarah could respond, a young medical assistant named Shalix hurried into the examination room, their translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated extreme excitement. Doctors, you need to see this, Shalix said, holding up a holographic display showing time-lapse imagery of what appeared to be bone tissue. The Major's osteoblast activity is off the charts. Her fractures are already showing advanced healing. The radius break has reduced by almost 28% in just the time she's been here. Dr. Zeraven practically snatched the display from Shalix's hands. That's impossible. Even with accelerated healing treatments, bone knitting doesn't occur at this rate. Sarah shifted uncomfortably on the examination table, and for the first time since her arrival, a flicker of something, perhaps wariness, crossed her features. Guess I'm a fast healer, she offered, her tone deliberately casual. Part of why I qualified for the Frontier Scout Corps, we tend to bounce back quickly. Dr. Zorin, the station's Betelgeusian geneticist, had been silently observing from the corner of the room. Now he stepped forward, his tall, willowy frame towering over the others. His voice was melodic, almost hypnotic, a characteristic of his species. Major Cruz, your healing rate exceeds all known human parameters by a factor of at least 6. This isn't simply being a fast healer. This suggests significant genetic modification or some form of advanced biotechnological augmentation. The room fell silent. In 2475, genetic modification of sentient beings was strictly regulated by Galactic Union law, with military applications being particularly scrutinized after the Genowars of the previous century. Sarah's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. I was part of the Sentinel Genesis program, she admitted after a long pause. Early volunteering batch. Earth needed scouts who could survive extreme conditions, make it back with the data even when things went sideways. I've heard rumors of this program, Dr. Furlick said, his voice dropping to a low growl. But I understood it was discontinued due to ethical concerns. The public-facing version was, Sarah replied with a cynical twist of her lips. The military branch continued under different nomenclature. You've got to understand, when humanity first joined the Galactic Union, we were behind technologically in almost every area except one: survival. Humans had evolved on a death world by galactic standards. We've been enduring catastrophes, adapting, and pushing through pain since before we knew how to make fire. Dr. Zeraven was about to respond when the station's emergency alert system activated, bathing the medical bay in pulsing blue light. Attention all medical personnel, announced the station's AI. Incoming distress signal from civilian transport vessel, Aurora's Hope. Multiple casualties reported. Nanite virus contamination detected. Vessel approaching docking bay 3. Emergency protocols are now in effect. The medical team immediately shifted into emergency response mode. Dr. Zeraven began issuing rapid orders as staff rushed to prepare containment protocols and treatment stations. Major Cruz, the doctor said firmly, please remain here, given your condition. I'm coming with you, Sarah interrupted, already sliding off the examination table and standing steadily despite her supposedly fractured femurs. Absolutely not, Dr. Furlick barked. You have multiple bone fractures and internal injuries that aren't slowing me down, Sarah cut in. And you're about to deal with a nanite virus situation, which means compromised ship systems and potentially hazardous environments. I'm trained for this exact scenario. Before the doctors could protest further, Commander Lerda, the station's Rigelian security chief, appeared in the doorway. We have a situation. The Aurora's Hope's automated systems are completely compromised by the nanite virus. Life support is failing, and we've lost communication with most of the passengers and crew. We need someone who can navigate potentially hostile environments to help establish a safe extraction corridor. The commander's gaze fell on Sarah. Major Cruz, your file indicates special training in hazardous environment operations. Sarah nodded sharply. I'm volunteering. Major, this is medically inadvisable, Dr. Zeraven protested. Your injuries will still be there tomorrow, Sarah finished. But those people on the Aurora's Hope might not be if we wait for someone in perfect condition to help them. The commander and the medical staff exchanged glances. A silent conversation of professional assessment, weighing risk against necessity. She's right, Commander Lerda finally said. We don't have time to wait for a specialized team from Central. Every minute counts. Dr. Zeravin's 4 eyes narrowed in resignation. At least allow us to fit you with a biomonitor so we can track your condition during the operation. Sarah nodded curtly. Fine, but let's move. When humans stop fighting to live, that's when we stop taking risks. Within 20 minutes, a hastily assembled rescue team had gathered in the launch bay. Sarah, now wearing a reinforced emergency response suit with a prominent biomonitor patch adhered to her neck, joined Commander Lerda, Engineer Kale, a proximan with metallic skin adapted for vacuum conditions, and Priyan, a medical specialist with expertise in nanite contamination. The plan is straightforward, Commander Lerda explained, gesturing to the holographic display of the Aurora's Hope. We dock at the emergency airlock, establish a secure corridor to the main life support hub, neutralize the nanite contamination, and begin evacuation of survivors. Engineer Kale will pilot and handle technical aspects. Specialist Priyan will advise on containment and treatment. Major Cruz will take point on the physical navigation and security aspects. Sarah examined the ship's schematic carefully. What type of nanite virus are we dealing with? Standard industrial sabotage or something more evolved? Unknown, Priyan replied. Their voice modulated through respiratory apparatus that their aquatic species required in standard atmosphere. Initial readings suggest it's a Class 3 self-evolving variety, but it's displaying unusual adaptation patterns. It appears to be integrating with the ship's systems, rather than simply corrupting them. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Integrating? Like a techno-organic fusion? Precisely, Priyan confirmed, which makes it particularly dangerous. It's not just disrupting functions, it's repurposing them. Lovely, Sarah muttered. Always wanted to fight a ship that's trying to fight back. The rescue shuttle, Phoenix Eye, detached from the Astra Vitae station and made a rapid approach toward the civilian transport. Through the viewport, Sarah could see the Aurora's Hope, a mid-sized passenger vessel designed for comfort rather than durability. Several of its external lights flickered erratically, and one section near the aft showed signs of internal damage. Life signs, Sarah asked as they approached. 217 passengers and crew, Priyan reported. But biosignatures are erratic. The nanite virus may be interfering with our scanners. As the Phoenix Eye aligned with the emergency docking port, a violent shudder ran through the Aurora's Hope. Sarah's experienced eye caught the telltale signs of systems failing in cascade. We're losing her, she said grimly. That ship doesn't have more than an hour before critical systems fail completely. Engineer Kale's metallic features shifted in what Sarah had learned was an expression of concern. The docking mechanism appears compromised. I'll need to override manually. Too slow, Sarah said, already moving toward the equipment locker. I'll do an external transfer and open it from their side. Major, Dr. Zeraven's voice came through the comm system from the medical station. Your biomonitor shows your third and fourth ribs are still acutely fractured. External EVA activity could cause them to puncture your lung. Sarah was already pulling on a compact EVA harness over her emergency response suit. Noted, Doctor. I'll try not to breathe too hard. Before anyone could raise further objections, Sarah had cycled through the airlock and launched herself across the gap between vessels, using a handheld thruster to control her trajectory. Each movement sent lances of pain through her torso, but she kept her breathing steady and her focus sharp. The external access panel for the Aurora's Hope's emergency airlock was indeed malfunctioning, its display flickering with corrupted data patterns. Sarah attached a portable override module to the interface and began a forced reboot sequence. "Carl," she spoke into her comm. "I'm seeing unusual power fluctuations. The nanite virus has definitely reached the external systems." "Understood," the engineer replied. "Be cautious. If it's integrating as Prian suggested, the ship may perceive your override attempt as a threat." As if on cue, a maintenance drone detached from a nearby recess and moved toward Sarah with jerky, unnatural movements. Its utility arms extended toward her, manipulator claws opening and closing spasmodically. "We've got corrupted automatons," Sarah reported calmly, drawing a compact pulse disruptor from her belt. Nothing too concerning yet. With a practiced motion, she fired a short burst at the drone, disabling its propulsion system without destroying it completely. As it drifted harmlessly away, the airlock's override sequence completed, and the external hatch slid open with a reluctant groan of protesting mechanisms. "We're in," she announced, propelling herself into the airlock and initiating the cycling sequence. Once inside the Aurora's Hope, the true extent of the situation became apparent. Emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow throughout the corridors, occasionally interrupted by bursts of standard illumination as systems fought against the nanite corruption. More disturbing were the walls themselves, in several places. The standard composite materials showed signs of unnatural reconfiguration, with circuit-like patterns growing across surfaces like metallic veins. "I've never seen nanite integration like this," Sarah murmured, as she secured the inner airlock door for the rest of the team to follow. "It's almost like the ship is vascularizing." "Fascinating and disturbing," Prian commented as they entered behind her, scanning the altered surfaces with a specialized device. "The nanites aren't just corrupting the systems, they're creating new ones. A techno-organic superstructure." Commander Lurda and Engineer Kale joined them moments later, both visibly disturbed by the ship's transformation. "Life support control is 3 sections forward," Kale said, consulting a portable display. "But these alterations may have changed the internal layout." Sarah unholstered her pulse disruptor. "I'll take point. Stay close and don't touch any of the altered surfaces." They moved cautiously through the corridors, encountering occasional resistance from corrupted maintenance systems and automated security measures. Sarah handled each threat with clinical efficiency, her military training evident in every precise movement, though each engagement sent fresh waves of pain radiating from her fractured bones. "Your biomonitor is showing increased stress on your injuries." "Major," Dr. Zeraven's concerned voice came through the comm. "Your left femur fracture is dangerously close to displacement." "Can't be helped," Sarah replied tersely, as she disabled a security scanner that had begun emitting dangerous levels of radiation. "We're almost at life support control." When they reached the control center, the scene before them was more nightmare than mechanical failure. The nanite virus had transformed the entire chamber into something that resembled a biomechanical heart. Consoles and control surfaces had been subsumed into pulsating structures that rhythmically contracted and expanded. Power conduits had been repurposed into vein-like channels through which energy flowed in visible pulses. "By the cosmic void," Commander Lurda whispered, her Rigelian stoicism momentarily shattered. "It's become a techno-organic entity." Engineer Kale moved toward what had once been the main environmental control console. now a grotesque fusion of technology, and something unnervingly organic. The virus has evolved beyond anything in our database. It's not just corrupting the ship, it's using it to build something new. Can you access the systems? Sarah asked, scanning the chamber for immediate threats. Not conventionally, Kyle replied, examining the transformed console with professional detachment, despite the horror of its appearance. But I might be able to establish a connection through. A sudden, shrill alarm cut through the air, and the entire chamber contracted violently. The altered surfaces began to pulse with angry red light, and a viscous metallic fluid began to seep from several conduits. "It's detected us as a threat," Preen exclaimed, their aquatic features displaying alarm. "The Nanite Collective is mobilizing defenses." The metallic fluid on the floor began to coalesce into humanoid shapes, crude approximations of maintenance droids, but flowing and reforming continuously like liquid metal given temporary structure. "Everyone back," Sarah ordered, placing herself between the team and the emerging threats. "Kyle, work fast. Preen, any suggestions for fighting these things?" "Extreme electrical discharge might temporarily disrupt their cohesion," the specialist suggested. "But they'll likely adapt quickly." Sarah nodded grimly, adjusting her disruptor to its highest setting. "Commander, get Preen to the secondary console. See if you can access emergency protocols from there. I'll handle our new friends." As the liquid metal constructs lurched toward them, Sarah fired a concentrated burst at the leading figure. The energy discharge caused it to lose cohesion momentarily, collapsing into a puddle before slowly beginning to reform. "That won't hold them long," she warned. "Whatever you're going to do it fast." "Working on it," Kyle called back, now interfacing directly with the transformed systems using specialized tools. "This is unlike any code structure I've encountered. It's almost thinking." Sarah continued to hold the metallic constructs at bay, but each discharge from her weapon seemed less effective than the last, as the Nanite Collective adapted to the energy signature. Worse, each sudden movement sent fresh spikes of pain through her body as her fractured bones shifted. "Major, your fifth rib has just punctured your left lung." Dr. Zeravin's urgent voice came through the comm. "You need to minimize movement immediately." "Little busy, Doc," Sarah grunted, diving aside as one of the constructs lunged at her. The movement sent a fresh wave of agony through her chest, and she tasted blood in her mouth. Ignoring it, she rolled to her feet and fired again, this time aiming at the ceiling above the encroaching threats. The targeted section collapsed, temporarily burying the liquid metal constructs under debris. Sarah used the momentary reprieve to catch her breath, each inhalation now accompanied by a concerning wet sound. "I've found something," Preen announced suddenly. "A communication channel. It appears to be coming from the engine room. Someone's still alive down there." A crackling voice broke through the station's comm system. "Anyone hear me? This is Chief Engineer Talia Reeves. The nanite virus originated in Cargo Bay 3. It's not just a virus. It's a weaponized techno-organic converter. Standard containment won't work. You need to..." The transmission dissolved into static. "Reeves is right," Coyle said, his metallic features set in grim determination. "This isn't responding to conventional containment protocols. The Nanite Collective has achieved a form of emergent intelligence. It's using the ship's systems and resources to build itself into something new. Then we need to cut off its resources," Sarah concluded. "Kyle, can you isolate the engine room and life support systems from the rest of the ship?" "Not from here," the engineer replied. "The command functions have been too deeply integrated. We'd need to physically sever the connections at the primary junction." "Which is where?" Sarah asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. "2 decks down, through the main maintenance corridor," Kyle said, projecting a route on his portable display. "But that area shows the highest concentration of nanite activity. It's essentially walking into the heart of the infection." Sarah checked her weapons charge and adjusted her suit's support systems to compensate for her increasingly compromised breathing. "Then, that's where I'm going. The rest of you focus on stabilizing life support and preparing evacuation protocols for the passengers." "Major, this is beyond reckless," Commander Lerda objected. "Your injuries are my problem," Sarah cut her off. "We don't have time for debate. This ship is dying, and it's taking everyone on board with it unless we act now." Before further objections could be raised, Sarah moved toward the exit, each step carefully measured to minimize the jarring of her injured body. "Major Cruz," Dr. Zaraven's voice came through her comm, noticeably softer than before. "If you insist on this course of action, at least allow me to talk you through some emergency field techniques to minimize further injury." "I'm listening, Doc," Sarah replied, as she made her way cautiously through the corrupted corridors, the walls around her increasingly alive with unnatural movement. Guided by Kale's directions and Dr. Zaraven's medical advice, Sarah navigated deeper into the ship. The nanite integration grew more pronounced with each section she passed. Walls flowed like liquid metal in places, while ceiling fixtures had been repurposed into sensor arrays that tracked her movement with unsettling precision. Twice she encountered more of the liquid metal constructs, each time barely evading their increasingly coordinated attacks. Her breathing grew more labored, and the biomonitor on her neck continuously transmitted alarming data back to the medical station. "Your core temperature is rising dangerously," Dr. Zaraven informed her. "You're developing a pneumothorax from the punctured lung, and your fractured vertebrae are showing signs of potential spinal cord compression." "Tell me something I don't know," Sarah gasped, flattening herself against a temporarily stable section of wall as a wave of dizziness washed over her. "What I don't understand," the doctor continued, professional curiosity momentarily overriding concern, "is how you're still functioning at all. By every medical standard I know, you should be completely incapacitated." Sarah allowed herself a pained smile. "Sentinel Genesis program, remember? They didn't just improve our healing. They reconfigured our pain response and endurance thresholds, made us harder to kill." "At what cost?" Dr. Zaraven asked quietly. Sarah didn't answer as she pushed away from the wall and continued toward her objective. The main maintenance corridor loomed ahead, now transformed into something resembling a massive artery, pulsing with energy and nanite-infused fluid. "I've reached the primary junction," she reported, surveying the nightmare of techno-organic transformation before her. "Kyle, what am I looking for?" "There should be 3 main conduits connecting the engine systems to the central network," the engineer replied. "They'll be the largest channels, probably pulsing with the highest energy signatures." Sarah spotted them immediately. 3 massive tube-like structures, each thicker than her torso, pulsating with ominous blue-white energy. They emerged from the floor and curved up into the ceiling, forming a triangular configuration around a central node that seemed to serve as some kind of processing hub. "Found them," she confirmed. "Now how do I shut them down?" "Conventional severing won't work," Kyle warned. "The nanites will simply reconnect the pathways. You need to overload the junction, force a systemic reset that will temporarily paralyze the collective." "And how exactly do I do that?" Sarah asked, eyeing the pulsating mass of technology and quasi-organic matter with growing concern. "Your disruptor," Preen's voice joined the conversation. "If you reconfigure it to emit a cascading pulse pattern, rather than a single discharge, it might create enough system shock to force a reset." "Might?" Sarah repeated skeptically. "It's our best option," Commander Lerda stated firmly. "We've begun evacuating the passengers from the sections we've secured, but we can't reach the majority of them while the ship remains under nanite control." Sarah nodded grimly and began adjusting her weapon settings. As she worked, the environment around her seemed to sense her intentions. The pulsing of the conduits accelerated, and the walls of the corridor began to shift and flow with more aggressive movements. "It knows what we're trying to do," she murmured. "This thing really is thinking." "Hurry, Major," Kale urged. I'm detecting power fluctuations throughout the ship. The Nanite Collective is consolidating its control. Sarah finished the modifications to her disruptor and approached the central junction. The moment she stepped closer, the floor beneath her feet suddenly liquefied, becoming a pool of the same metallic fluid that had formed the humanoid constructs earlier. She leaped instinctively, grabbing onto one of the massive conduits to avoid sinking into the transforming floor. The motion sent shards of agony through her broken ribs and fractured arms, but she maintained her grip through sheer force of will. "Major, your vitals are critical." Dr. Zeraven's alarmed voice came through the comm. "Your body can't sustain this level of stress much longer, enhanced physiology or not. Just need a minute." Sarah gasped, pulling herself along the conduit toward the central junction. The living metal of the conduit squirmed beneath her grasp, as if trying to dislodge her. Below, the liquefied floor had begun forming into multiple tendrils that reached up toward her, attempting to ensnare her legs and pull her down. She kicked one away, only to have another wrap around her ankle with surprising strength. "Almost there," she grunted, now hanging directly above the central processing node. She raised her modified disruptor, aiming it at the exact center of the junction where all three conduits connected. The tendril around her ankle yanked hard, nearly pulling her from her position. The sudden jerk caused one of her fractured vertebrae to shift, sending a bolt of white-hot pain up her spine. For a moment, her vision narrowed to a pinpoint, darkness encroaching from all sides. "Sarah!" Dr. Zeraven's voice penetrated the haze of pain. "Your spinal integrity is compromised. You need to stabilize immediately." The use of her first name rather than her rank cut through Sarah's pain-induced fog. With a supreme effort of will, she focused on her target and pulled the trigger of her modified disruptor. The weapon emitted not a single pulse, but a rapid series of cascading energy discharges that struck the central node with precision. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a high-pitched whine filled the corridor as energy feedback built within the junction. The tendril around Sarah's ankle suddenly went slack, and the writhing motion of the conduit she clung to stilled. Throughout the corridor, the flowing movement of the transformed surfaces paused, as if the entire system had been momentarily stunned. "It's working!" Kyle exclaimed through the comm. "The nanite network is experiencing a system-wide paralysis. Connections are dropping throughout the ship." Sarah didn't respond. With the immediate threat neutralized, her body was finally registering the full extent of her injuries. She lost her grip on the now inert conduit and fell the short distance to the floor, which had temporarily solidified in the system reset. The impact, though relatively minor, was enough to shift her broken bones further. This time, the darkness encroaching on her vision didn't recede. Her last conscious thought was mild irritation that she might not finish the mission after all. When Sarah regained consciousness, she was back in the medical bay of the Astraviti station, surrounded by monitoring equipment and the concerned faces of the medical team. Dr. Zeraven stood at her bedside, 4 eyes fixed intently on her biometric displays. "Welcome back, Major," the Centaurian physician said, mandibles clicking in what Sarah had learned to recognize as relief. "For a while there, we weren't sure if even your enhanced physiology would pull through." Sarah attempted to sit up, only to find her body heavily immobilized by medical restraint fields. "The Aurora's hope?" she asked, her voice rasping painfully through a throat raw from emergency intubation. "Secured," Commander Lerda answered, stepping into view from where she had been waiting near the door. "After your intervention disrupted the Nanite Collective, we were able to implement proper containment protocols. 212 passengers and crew survived. We lost 5 in the initial nanite outbreak before we arrived." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, acknowledging the losses while accepting that many more had been saved. "And the virus itself?" "Contained but not completely neutralized," Preen explained, joining the conversation. "Your disruption bought us the time we needed to isolate the infected sections of the ship. Union Xenotech specialists are en route to study and properly dispose of the nanite collective. Told you it would work, Sarah murmured, a ghost of a smile crossing her pale features. At considerable cost to yourself, Dr. Zaravin noted sternly. Your reckless actions resulted in 8 additional bone fractures, bringing your total to 50. You suffered complete pneumothorax of your left lung, dangerous compression of your spinal cord, and internal hemorrhaging in multiple locations. Just another tough stretch, Sarah replied weakly. The medical team exchanged glances that mixed exasperation with reluctant admiration. I've studied 17 different sentient species, Dr. Furlick rumbled, his bear-like features set in an expression of perplexed wonder. None of them continue to function with injuries of this magnitude, let alone perform complex tactical operations. This Sentinel Genesis program of yours has created something unprecedented. Just good old human stubbornness, with a little genetic enhancement on the side, Sarah said, then winced as a wave of pain broke through whatever powerful analgesics they had her on. Your recovery will take time, even with your accelerated healing, Dr. Zaravin informed her. We've implemented a specialized regenerative protocol to complement your natural abilities, but you'll be confined to this medical bay for at least... The doctor was interrupted by a notification chime from the station's communication system. A holographic display materialized above Sarah's bed, showing a priority alert from Galactic Union Command. Special Operation AB-315. Volunteer requested for search and rescue of missing exploration vessel in the Obsidian Veil sector. High-risk environment. Enhanced survival capabilities required. Sarah's eyes immediately lit up with interest, and she attempted once again to sit up against the restraint fields. Don't even think about it, Dr. Zaravin said firmly, deactivating the display with a sharp gesture. You are in no condition to... How long until I'm stable enough for transport? Sarah interrupted, her tone shifting from casual to intensely focused. Major Cruz, Dr. Furlich growled in disbelief. You have 50 broken bones, a recently reinflated lung, and spinal injuries that nearly paralyzed you. You cannot possibly be considering another mission. Sarah's expression hardened with determination. People are missing in the Obsidian Veil. That's extinction-level environmental hazards. If they're alive, every hour counts. And you believe you're the only one who can save them? Dr. Zorin asked, his melodic voice tinged with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. I know I can survive conditions that would kill others, Sarah replied simply. That gives those missing people better odds. Isn't that worth a little discomfort on my part? The medical team looked at her with expressions ranging from horror to reluctant respect. Dr. Zaravin moved closer to the bed, all 4 eyes focused intently on Sarah's face. What drives you, Major? The doctor asked quietly. This goes beyond duty or even enhanced physiology. Most beings with your injuries would be grateful for the chance to rest and recover, not seeking the next near-death experience. Sarah was silent for a long moment, her gaze drifting to the viewport, where the vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before them. When humanity first reached the stars, she finally said, everyone expected us to be awed by the vastness of it all, to feel small and insignificant. But that's not what happened. Her eyes refocused, meeting the doctor's gaze with unexpected intensity. We saw all that emptiness, all those worlds where life never took hold or died out, and we understood something fundamental. Life itself is the miracle. Consciousness is the universe experiencing itself, and fighting to preserve that, to extend that miracle wherever we can. That's not just duty, it's purpose. The room fell silent as her words settled over them. Besides, she added with a hint of her earlier nonchalance, I'm already starting to itch lying here. 50 broken bones or not. I'll heal faster doing something useful than staring at these walls. Dr. Zaravin sighed, a sound that translated remarkably well across species. I will conditionally clear you for transport in 48 hours, provided you remain in a specialized medical stasis unit during transit and agree to ongoing treatment at your destination. Sarah's face broke into a genuine smile. Knew you'd see it my way, Doc. As the medical team dispersed to make the necessary arrangements, Dr. Zaravin lingered beside Sarah's bed. You humans, the Centaurian physician mused, gazing out at the stars. The greatest mystery in the galaxy isn't in those endless depths of space. It's how your species continues to function, even thrive, under conditions that should, by all rational assessment, destroy you completely. Sarah reached for her mug of cafetek, which someone had thoughtfully placed within reach of her least injured arm. That's our secret, Doc. We've been broken and put back together so many times throughout our history that we've come to see scars as maps rather than destinations. She took a sip of the metallic-tasting liquid and grimaced appreciatively. Every shattered bone is just another story to tell. As Dr. Zaravin departed, Sarah turned her attention to the mission briefing that had automatically downloaded to her personal device. Despite the pain that still radiated through every inch of her body, her mind was already calculating trajectories, survival requirements, and extraction strategies for the missing exploration vessel. 50 broken bones was indeed just another tough stretch of the mission. The universe was vast and largely indifferent to the fragile miracle of consciousness. But as long as Sarah, Shard Cruz, could draw breath, even through a partially collapsed lung, she would continue pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be human in an inhuman cosmos. In the observation lounge adjacent to the medical bay, Dr. Zaravin stood silently, watching the stars. The Centaurian physician's 4 eyes blinked in contemplative sequence as a thought formed. Humans, the dream or the nightmare of the universe? The answer, perhaps, was both. And somehow, that seemed exactly right.